I will begin by singing the Mangalacharna prayers and leading a short kirtan, and then we will speak about Srila Prabhupada. Namaste Saraswati Deve Bharavani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Prajakacharya Slokas Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Jaya ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Prajakacharya Slokas Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Jaya Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jaya Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jaya प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरी गोवर्धन की जय वृंदावन धाम की जय नवद्वीप धाम की जय यमुना माई की जय गंगा माई की जय तुलसी देवी की जय भक्ति देवी की जय Samveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jaya. Nitya Gaur Premanande Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome, my dear devotees, to the continuation of our discussion of Srila Prabhupada's travels in India from the time we arrived in India with him until um, the time we got to Hindu land. Yesterday we spoke about Srila Prabhupada's visit to Amritsar, and after Amritsar we traveled by train to Delhi, and in Delhi Srila Prabhupada was met at the train station by one Mr. Gupta, who had been corresponding with Srila, and Mr. Gupta asked Prabhupada to lead some devotees in Delhi to begin our activities there. And on the spot, Srila Prabhupada formed a team, Yamuna, Gopal, Bruce, Dr. Bruce, who later became Banu Swami, and myself. And for the sake of time, I won't speak too much about our stay. Significant events took place when we were in Delhi, and that is that Srila Prabhupada asked us to go to Vrindavan. The first time we had been to Vrindavan. So I'll just read that little portion about our visit to Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada wrote Guru Das that, quote, a big temple and compound belonging to the Maharaj of Bharatpur on the bank of the Yamuna at Keshigarh is for sale. Therefore, I would like you to go immediately. Prabhupada also sent us a pitch containing a handwritten note and a large iron key. In the midst of all the austerities, sickness, and penury we had been enduring, the key represented to us the unlocking of something wonderful and long desired, entrance into the holy land of Vrindavan. And what Prabhupada had called, quote, the hub of the spiritual universe, the Radha Damodar Temple. It was the key to the spiritual world. When Guru Das left, and after several days we had not heard from him, the rest of us followed. As soon as we arrived in Vrindavan, I felt something different, as if Krishna and his cowherd friends and cows were still present 5,000 years later. Thereafter, when in Bombay, Srila Prabhupada asked me about my visit to Vrindavan, he himself articulated for me what I had experienced. Quote, when we are in Vrindavan, we don't see Krishna now, but we can feel his presence. Yamuna Devi reflected, I thought about the residents of Vrindavan looking out in the same way for their beloved Krishna and Balaram as they returned with the cows 5,000 years ago. The nights in Vrindavan are strangely reticent, the stars all encompassing and appearing almost touchable. There are no loud sounds in Vrindavan at night, only kirtans from temples and houses, bicycle bells, temple bells, birds singing, peacocks keening, and dogs barking. Vrindavan is like a dense forest of longing, great longing and urgency for Krishna captured in every vision. At the Radha Damodar temple, we took out the key that Srila Prabhupada had sent and opened his kitchen door. Yamuna described, the wooden door swung open slowly, its iron hinges groaning from disuse and its weight. Shafts of sunlight shone through carved window shutters and fell onto shades of silvery gray. Every surface was coated with at least 2 inches of powdery Vrindavan sand that obliterated corners and angles and made all forms look ethereal. The niches were all had little items in them, and there was a round wooden chair on which Srila Prabhupada would honor prasadam while looking out over Rupa Goswami's Samadhi and Bhajan Kutir. Krishna and his Guru Maharaj had situated him in the most auspicious place on the planet, writing his books and preaching in the West. Anyway, then we cleaned up Srila Prabhupada's quarters at Radha Damodar. That his quarters were to be cleaned out and burned. This was a very difficult instruction for us because everything relating to Srila Prabhupada was sacred to us. Even the seemingly ordinary receipts for small purchases or papers having to do with his business or household or life. Yet he had given the instruction, so we tried to follow it, although we did not burn everything. Srila Prabhupada's trunks were not locked. When we opened one, we found some of his clothes inside. A quilted saffron jacket, bandi, which the mice had eaten holes in, and a heavy woolen chadar, which had disintegrated to the extent that when we picked it up, it almost completely fell apart. There were also the personal papers, which we later took to the Yamuna, where we made a bonfire and burned them. So Srila Prabhupada had gone on to Bombay, and after a month in Bombay, he proceeded to Indore by the invitation of the Gita Bhavan for the Gita Jayanti Mahotsav, the celebration of Lord Krishna speaking the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. And on December 8th, at his request, our group, minus Guru Das, who was working on getting customs clearance for Prabhupada's books, joined him. The organizers had assigned Prabhupada a cottage with lawn and garden and housed the rest of us nearby. After settling into our quarters, we toured the festival site's large pandal and stage, the Gita Bhavan Eye Hospital, and an extensive diorama exhibit with an eclectic mix of spiritual paths. It was kind of like a pseudo-spiritual museum, and we were impressed by the energy and imagination that had gone into the center, but doubtful about the legitimacy of it all. Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, Vivekananda, Ramakrishna, as well as demigods and even animals were on display, which Srila Prabhupada referred to dismissively as hodgepodge. Quote, where in the Bhagavad Gita does it say you should open an eye hospital? He asked. But if I tell them that, they will feel offended. Later, when we entered Prabhupada's darshan room, he looked up from his desk. Srila Prabhupada, Yamuna remarked, you look just like a picture I have seen of your Guru Maharaj, looking up from his desk. All that glitters is not gold, Prabhupada replied. My Guru Maharaj was like gold. I am like iron. Of course, we know that he was pure gold, just like his Guru Maharaj. Yamuna recalled how Srila Prabhupada dealt with us each individually was the greatest gift. He treated everyone on a personal basis and encouraged us in our practice of Krishna consciousness. I felt that he genuinely loved each of us, and he exhibited that love through how he took care of us, with great concern, compassion, and correction when required. He personally took me to my room, which contained a small bed and a metal almirah. Then he took out a small key, opened the almirah, and said, here is space for your belongings. Is this all right? I was thinking, here I am, an insignificant person in this party, yet he is showing so much concern for my welfare. And the same concern and kindness he showed to me, he also showed to everyone in the party by taking into account our natures, our characters, our individuality. We were his World Sankirtan party, his preachers. And at every moment we were reminded how important this was to Srila Prabhupada, his traveling Sankirtan. Prabhupada was scheduled as the last speaker on the first night of the festival, so he had to sit on stage for hours, listening to an assortment of sadhus and swamis give a series of long lectures in Hindi on Mayavad misconceptions. He sat with us and waited, chanting japa. Srila Prabhupada would often chant japa when people were speaking nonsense. When we were in Delhi, Srila Prabhupada requested us to visit one and Mr. Gupta, the host, would say to him, and I am Vedanta. And he also related how when he would speak to Srila Prabhupada about his idea of Vedanta, Prabhupada would be chanting japa. So here, while all the Mayavadis were speaking in Hindi, Srila Prabhupada sat with us and waited, chanting Japa. When it was finally his turn, and he joined us and began clamping rhythmically, devotees joined him, and soon hundreds of people rose to their feet and joined the kirtan and danced. The next day, pleased by the performance, one directors visited Srila Prabhupada in his quarters. Prabhupada complained about having to wait so long to speak, and his disciples having to sit through hours of speeches that deviated from the teachings of the Gita in a language they couldn't understand. But the director replied, "We do not favor any particular way. Followers of the Shankara school and others also come to our institution. We do not subscribe wholly that Krishna is the sole God or anything of the sort. There is a power behind him." This remark drew fire from Srila Prabhupada. What kind of glorification of Gita did not accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the highest truth, Mata Parataram Nanya? The men had left. Prabhupada continued. They are thinking that there is something beyond Krishna, or that it is the spirit within Krishna that we have to surrender to. But they do not know that the within and the without of Krishna are all absolute, eternal, and full of bliss. As an Amritsar, he could see that the festival organizers had invited him to draw larger crowds, but they would not make him sit through all the Mayavadi nonsense again. From then on, he said, he would go with his disciples, speak, chant, and then leave. The next night, however, despite promises by the Pandal directors, Prabhupada again had to wait until the end of the program before he could speak and hold kirtan. The crowd was larger than before, and they were clearly waiting for him and his foreign sadhus. When his turn came at last, he spoke and then asked us to begin kirtan. Again, the crowd responded enthusiastically, but during the kirtan, one of the members of the Gita Bhavan gestured to the devotees to jump down into the crowd as they had done the previous night. But what the devotees had done spontaneously could not be staged as a crowd pleaser. The man, however, was insistent. He came forward to the edge of the stage, reached up, and began grabbing at the feet of the dancing devotees, trying to pull them into the audience. Grabbing indiscriminately, he pulled at one of the women's saris. Srila Prabhupada was also dancing, but when he saw what was happening, he rushed to the edge of the stage and swung his kartals towards the man's face and shouted, "Stop this!" The man retreated, and Prabhupada and the rest of us continued our kirtan. Although little noticed by the crowd, Prabhupada's burst of lion-like ferocity impressed and inspired us, his disciples. Mayavadi sannyasis who went by the name Muktananda Swami joined our movement. We were impressed by his change of heart, considering it to be like Prabhupada Saraswati and all of his followers converted by Lord Chaitanya to Vaishnavism. We had never had a Mayavadi sannyasi join us, so we asked Srila Prabhupada what his position would be. Prabhupada said that Muktananda should give up his sannyas garments and dress and live like a brahmachari. Eventually, Muktananda went through the standard procedure of getting first and then second initiation. Prabhupada was pleased that he had joined and would sometimes address remarks to him to encourage him. Generally, Srila Prabhupada would ask people who wanted to meet him to come to his cottage. But when the request came from an especially prominent party, he would go to their place. So on December 11th, we went with him to Lal Bagh Palace to meet His Highness Maharaj Tukoji Rao Hokar and Maharani Sarmista Bai Hokar, the King and Queen of Indore. Upon our arrival, we were seated in a room with rows of chairs, where we waited until we were called for our audience with the royal couple. When we were ushered in, I sat on the floor with the other devotees, and Prabhupada spoke with them. Then Prabhupada gave a talk on the role of the Kshatriya class in the Krishna consciousness movement. It was really a brilliant talk. The transcript is here, but for the sake of time, I won't read it. From start to finish, the meeting at the palace went very well. On December 14th, Prabhupada accepted an invitation from a wealthy gentleman who was related to the royal family. He spoke with a man about the importance of Krishna consciousness and then showed him his books and asked him to become a life member. I already have these books in my own language, the man responded. I don't need any more. Prabhupada became stern. I have not come here to sell you some books. I have come here begging at your doorstep. Taken aback, the man immediately joined. Oh yes, Swamiji, I will become your member. I will be glad to become your member. In the dining room for lunch, our host seated Prabhupada at the head of a long banquet table, and I took my place at his right. Then we all honored prasad. Having been trained to follow a strict brahmachari lifestyle, I was particularly reserved about eating sweets, and especially seated next to Prabhupada, I tried not to take too much of the more opulent preparations. I didn't want to indulge in sense gratification, and I certainly did not want Prabhupada to think I was doing so. So even when the host's elderly father repeatedly tried to serve me a second sabula, I refused. Prabhupada could see that the host's father was disappointed And finally, he glanced at me and said, "You can take a sweet to make an old man happy." So I did. Many gentlemen came to meet Srila Prabhupada, usually with their own ideas of spiritual life. He even complained, quote, "They come to the Guru with their own opinions to see if the Guru will agree. But if the Guru disagrees, they think he is not good." One argument he had with the guests was especially instructive. On the previous night, he had delivered a lecture at the Gita Samiti Hall, where he was appalled to find that there was no picture of Krishna. The next day, he raised the issue with his guests to point out that many people were not properly understanding and presenting the Bhagavad Gita and its speaker, Lord Krishna. He explained that his mission was to present the Gita properly, as it is, and to expose those who did not. And this following conversation is so instructive and so enlightening and so illuminating. And it has a surprise ending. Prabhupada. Bona fide spiritual master means one who carries the order of the higher authorities. We are carrying out the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or Krishna. Krishna taught the Bhagavad Gita, and he stated, "Anyone who preaches the confidential message of the Bhagavad Gita is very dear to me." Yes, we believe in incorporeal God, Nirakar. Prabhupada, who says incorporeal? Who says? Yes. You find it all over India, that incorporeal form, Jyotirlinga. Prabhupada, that's all right. You are bringing something besides the Bhagavad Gita. Just try to understand. In this International Society for Krishna Consciousness, we are preaching the Bhagavad Gita, Jyotirlinga, these theories, other literatures. But we are particularly interested in preaching the Bhagavad Gita. And because the Bhagavad Gita is being preached wrongly all over the world, with nonsense commentation, we want to rectify it. Therefore, our society is especially named Krishna Conscious. What is wrongly preached about Gita? Prabhupada. Just like yesterday, I went to that Gita Samiti, Gita Society. There is a lamp. Why a lamp instead of Krishna? Is a lamp. Therefore, I say it is being wrongly preached. Why there is a lamp? Does Krishna say? Guest, lamp has been with us for more than Prabhupada. That's all right. Krishna has also been there. Guest, they must evolve. Prabhupada. No. The first thing is that the Bhagavad Gita is spoken by Krishna. So why there is no picture of Krishna? That means you have not understood Krishna. Therefore, your so-called Gita society is not bona fide. Gita Samiti is preaching the Bhagavad Gita, and there is not a single picture of Krishna. This is misguided. Now, Gita Bhavan, they have invited me because we are teaching the Bhagavad Gita. And that was the Gita's Jayanti. And the speaker of the Gita is not present. Therefore, I say there are so many places, even here, that are wrongly presenting the Bhagavad Gita. So our position is to rectify that wrong propaganda. Guess two. Is guess number two. What is that wrong propaganda? Prabhupada. That is one instance. There are many. Just like in the 9th chapter, there is Manmana Bhava Madbhakto Madhyajimam Namaskuru. Lord Krishna says, engage your mind always in thinking of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances to me, and worship me. But Dr. Radha Krishnan says it is not to the person Krishna. Where does he get this nonsense idea? And incidentally, later on in his travels, Srila Prabhupada went to Madras and he met Dr. Radha Krishnan, who was almost paralyzed. He could hardly speak. But Prabhupada was kind to him. But as I recall, he said that because he misused his power of speaking, Krishna took it away. But Dr. Radha Krishnan says it is not to the person Krishna. Where does he get this nonsense idea? Guess number one. No, Vivekananda has also said that. Prabhupada. Therefore, I say they are all nonsense. They are all nonsense who deviate from the original text of the Bhagavad Gita. The guest challenged Srila Prabhupada's statement that his presentation of the Bhagavad Gita was correct, whereas others were not. They said that he should see and treat others with equal vision. Guess five. If each and every person has an individual identity of soul above the body, unless you treat him as equal, Prabhupada, there are three gunas analyzed. These persons are in Sattva Guna, Raja Guna, and these persons are in Tama Guna. Guess number five. That is not the personality of the Atma. The Atma is everybody's soul. If you have the potency to rise and go higher and higher, Prabhupada, you are not in the Atma state. I am not in the Atma state. You are in the bodily state. Guess five. Both, body and soul together. Srila Prabhupada challenged Darshana. This is stated in the Bhagavad Gita. I was asked to give a class in the temple. I was given this verse to speak on. So, yeah, equal vision. Guess three. That is the correct position. Prabhupada. That is the correct position. But if you find that Swamiji is not up to the standard, that means you are not in the position of Samadharshana. Guess number three. But that means that if a person is murder, a sinner, oh yes, that is very high stage, Samadharshana. Samadharshana. Here it is clearly stated. Vidya Vinay Samtane Brahmane Kavi Hastini. A Brahman is learned and Vinay, very humble. These are signs of goodness. Suni means dog. He sees a dog and a learned Brahmin the same. Now the dog is supposed to be sinful, and this learned Brahmin is supposed to be virtuous. Therefore, in his vision, the virtuous and the sinful are the same. That is Samadarshi. Both are the same. That is Samadarshi. Guess 3. Guess 3. Excuse me, guess number 1. I think they have made many mistakes in writing the shlokas. That's all right, Prabhupada said. Now you are finding faults in Vyas. So who can talk with you? Please excuse me. Don't. What faults in Vyas? Guess 4. We only want you to be understood here. Prabhupada shouting, I am not Samadarshi. I don't say I'm Samadarshi. You say Samadarshi. Guess 2. You should be Samadarshi, Prabhupada, but I'm not in that stage. I say because you don't surrender to Krishna, you are sinful. That is my darshan. Guess 5. You should also be seen as Samadarshina. Prabhupada, no. Why shall I? I'm not in that position. I'm simply repeating the words of Krishna. That is my point. I may be Samadarshi, I may not be Samadarshi. My position is guesses. But every successive is some interpretation of the knowledge. No. Guess 4. You are the successor of somebody. Prabhupada. Like Srila Prabhupada's practical work, he had made Krishna consciousness available to persons all over the world. That was his equal vision, and that was his special contribution to his predecessors and to us. He was presenting Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the Bhagavad Gita as it is, and people all over the world were accepting and becoming Krishna's devotees. The guests were impressed. And if they wanted, they could also follow and benefit. In Indore and in other places on his tour, Srila Prabhupada was speaking from the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam about the life of Ajamil. And on his last morning in Indore, Prabhupada continued Ajamil's story, explaining that because Ajamil had uttered the holy name, he was immediately saved, even though he had been so sinful. I hope you all know the story of Ajamil. So Ajamil, at the time of his death, just remembered his youngest son, whose name was Narayana. The very name of Narayana has got the full potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. This is the secret of this Nam Sankirtan movement. By chanting the holy name of Narayan, you immediately contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nama, the Lord's name, is not material, it is spiritual. Krishna and Krishna's name, there is no difference. In a very appealing voice, Ajamil began to ask his son Narayan, please come here, I am dying. He was very afraid of the Yamadutas. Krishna sent the Vishnu-dutas to give Ajamil shelter. The Vishnu-dutas looked just like Lord Narayan with 4 hands. With a grave voice, they said to the Yamadutas, what are you doing? Stop. You cannot take this man to Yamaraj. Thus, Prabhupada ended his lecture and his stay in Indore. Baba Bal Mukund, one of the sadhus who attended the Gita Jayanti, summarized Srila Prabhupada's contribution. Quote, I've seen many sadhus and great saints in this Gita Bhavan. I saw Prabhupada also in the same place. I was very much impressed by Srila Prabhupada and his preaching. It was because Prabhupada had revealed the reality about bhakti, because he was a pure bhakta. It was because Prabhupada had revealed the reality about bhakti, because he was a pure bhakta that could change the people of the West and give them another dress, give them another diet, and he could entirely change their culture and give them true bhakti. And this was the greatest thing Prabhupada has done. Let the world say as it likes, but he has done a marvelous thing regarding Lord Krishna's bhakti. What Swami Vivekananda, Swami Ramatirtha, and others could not do, Srila Prabhupada has done. It is a marvelous thing. Srila Prabhupada. So we'll end here. Next time, we will read about Srila Prabhupada in Surat, which is a glorious visit. We'll end here now with Indore. And if any of you have any questions or comments or reflections, you can raise your hand. His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj, would you like to enlighten us with any? He's one of the 26 qualities of a devotee is silent. So he's choosing to be silent now. Okay. Sorry? I decided the question. All right. 2 days ago, on my parish, we were completing the resignation. She probably says, we would like to say this is the top of is 10 months, 2 months, 9, and 9. I was wondering about the third part of the relationship. Yes, Friday was Sri Rabakadasi, the date on which Srila Prabhupada finished his translation of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita at Hare Krishna land in Juhu. And every morning at about 6 o'clock, I would go up to Srila Prabhupada's quarters to accompany him on his morning walk on Juhu Beach. But that particular morning, when I got to the top of the stairs, I found that the door to Srila Prabhupada's side was locked. So I tried knocking on the other door to his staff's quarters, and that door was also locked. Anyway, I kept knocking, and eventually Harikesh came to the door and said that Srila Prabhupada had completed his translation of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, that he had written the most wonderful glorification of his Guru Maharaj, that he was in a very jubilant mood, and that he said we should celebrate by having a feast. And it's true, in the concluding words, Srila Prabhupada refers to his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, as his eternal spiritual master, guide, and friend. Well, friend can be taken in two ways. One is like friends who are equals, but friend can also be taken in another way, like Krishna, Suridamsa, and he's the best friend of every living entity, meaning he's the well-wisher of every living entity. So in that sense, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was his friend. Not that he was saying they're equals, but in that sense as well-wisher. Any other questions or comments? Yeah, can we pass the microphone back?
The question on this survey that the Pandita is a single man and a development Brahmana on the same way. I did not know and my vision was not that way that we see a different person and development Brahmana on the same platform, so that it will be
I didn't quite catch the question.
That was not a question, it was just a reflection that I was unaware that you see a single person and a Pandita on the same because the distinguish between the two.
Yeah, that's a very high level, like Uttama Adhikari. Yeah, he doesn't distinguish. He sees them all equally. There was a hand up over here.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandapana. Yesterday you told that Srila Prabhupada asked you that you want to become servant of God or you want to become God. And Prabhupada told you that he can make servant of God. Can you please tell some ways that how to become servant of God, because it seems very difficult to become servant of God because of this mentality of enjoyment or controversy between us that is very difficult. How to become servant of God? It seems completely impossible. Hare Krishna.
Yes, it's true. The first time I met Srila Prabhupada, he asked, do you want to become God or do you want to serve God? And actually, well, first of all, we can't become God. And second of all, it is our natural position to serve God. as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Jiver Swarubhai Krishna Nityadas. The constitutional position of the living entity is that he is the eternal servant of Krishna. So it's our natural position to serve Krishna. But because of false ego, we don't want Krishna to be the center, but we want to be the center. And that is the difficulty. But when we become free from false ego and come to our actual identity, we realize that we are the eternal servant of Krishna. My dear God brother Puri Ram Das has nicely explained the psychology of most people. Psychology. And he said it's as if everyone is walking around and they want to, clear their throats and say, excuse me, please. I have an important announcement to make. I am the center of the universe, and everyone should cooperate with my desires. That is the underlying psychology of the conditioned soul. And he also said that everyone envisions life as a drama or as a movie in which he or she is the hero or heroine and wants everyone else to be the supporting cast. So, I'm thinking I'm the hero of this movie. You're meant to be my supporting cast. You're thinking, no. I'm the hero and you're meant to be my supporting cast. So there's scope for a lot of conflict. But when we accept that Krishna is the hero and we're all Krishna supporting players, then there's no conflict. Yeah, we can live in harmony with Krishna and with one another. Yes.
I have been reading on radio content. So actually there are so many wonderful narrations that we have mentioned that our interactions with Prabhupada and also the reflections. I found that it is very most amazing and very helpful for a devotee who's progressing. And one question I had regarding your services which you have been doing while Jehu temple, bringing up the Jehu temple in terms of construction and many managerial services also. So one thing is when we are serving, there might be many managerial services which we might be also involved, where sometimes with the immediate needs, our mind gets caught up, and many times we may forget or we may not be able to keep up our consciousness on a right platform. So, and in terms of our consciousness and in terms of our sadhana. So, I would like to request if you can suggest some tips for devotees, also especially when there is a heavy management services when they are involved, how to maintain our consciousness and keep up right mood, so that we should always be alert, that we should not get immediately caught up in the immediate things and forget the most important aspect. So if you can just
That's an important question. When I was in Juhu, in general, but in particular, because you referred to Juhu, I was always very conscientious to chant my rounds early in the morning. And I got a lot of spiritual strength and clarity from chanting attentive rounds in the morning. And without that, I could not have done my service to the extent that I did. Prior to coming to Juhu, I was in Calcutta with His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami. And I was supposed to make appointments for us to meet people to enroll as life members or to contribute advertisements for our souvenir book. And but I couldn't function well unless I had chanted at least 12 rounds. And initially, Tamal Krishna Goswami was quite annoyed, and he accused me, you don't really want to chant your rounds, you just want to avoid work. But eventually, he understood I really needed that to be able to function, and he allowed me to chant my 12 rounds before making phone calls or doing other service. So I think that's the foundation, that the chanting of our rounds in the morning. And as I said, that will give us the spiritual strength and the clarity of thought to proceed with our service. Nice. But we should always chant. I like to quote a talk by Srila Prabhupada in Los Angeles, in which he said, if you've got time, chant Hare Krishna. Don't speak nonsense. Chant Hare Krishna. Yes. Microphone.
In a similar question, at the time that you were actually in the thick of it, really Prabhupada directly, you got in direct training and shocking, listen, being there with him. So fixed. How it is possible that we can invoke that same spirit now to provide that kind of intense, just fixed surrender, the intense surrender that was required to write that book. How can we achieve that now? It's possible.
Everything begins from faith, adoshada, and I did have faith in Srila Prabhupada, in his vision for Hare Krishna land. And he also wanted the book to be written. Early on, he instructed me to write. When I was in Boston, Srila was the temple president and the editor of Back to Godhead, and he always wanted articles. And so I wrote an article about the genuine spiritual master. And because of the time it took, for the magazine to actually be printed, by the time the magazine came out, we were in India. with Srila Prabhupada in Gorakhpur. And Srila Prabhupada called for me and said, "I've read your article. It is very nice. You should write. You should write as your first business." And he repeated the instruction that I should write over the years. And so I'm trying to do that. It's his order and it's my service. I don't know if I answered your question. I'm not sure what your question was, whether it was about the working.
That spirit now that you're able to actually sell out of it, you can experience it just by reading that book, especially if you're trying to somehow keep going. How we can actually get that move on now. It is possible. I mean, I'm reading it, I'm trying, and everybody from their own position is trying. But it seems beyond our practically see all of the great politics, the problems, presence of the year, everybody together, and how there's so much different frequencies. How we can actually, how we can do that? Is it possible?
Well, I think of something that Srila Prabhupada said in Calcutta. He said that his motto was always everything for Krishna and nothing for me. So if we adopt that policy or motto, everything for Prabhupada, nothing for me, we can do it. And I can give a little back, I don't know. But yeah, in brief, difficulties in the Calcutta camp for Srila Prabhupada to come. And when he did come, one by one devotees were expressing their dissatisfaction. And then he called a meeting of all the devotees. And he listened very patiently and sympathetically to all they had to say about the difficulties in the temple. But then at a certain stage, his mood seemed to change. And he mentioned how much he had suffered to spread Krishna consciousness, what he had endured when he first went to New York City, different physical ailments. He said, I do not even wish to discuss. But I never complained because my motto was always everything for Krishna, nothing for me. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So relishable to speak about Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. I had a question that you had an opportunity to lead the Prabhupada for 3 years. And since Master Prabhupada is certain and there is a So when Srila Prabhupada left this planet, so there must be a lot of pregnant space in your heart. So how you wait during that time? And how you say that when Prabhupada left this planet?
When Prabhupada left this planet, there must have been what in my heart?
I can see that Prabhupada is not there of people.
Yeah. Oh, emptiness. Well, after Srila Prabhupada left, I came across a section in the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which discusses the departure of the spiritual master. And it answered every question that I possibly could have had about how to deal with the disappearance of the spiritual master. And apart from the guidance that I got from that section of Srimad Bhagavatam, I also got the feeling that Srila Prabhupada was so perfect and complete in his work that even after his departure, he could give us all the guidance we needed to proceed in his absence. And that was, such a revelation. And when I came across that, I went and I shared it, with Tamal Krishna Goswami and Bhakti Tree Swami and the other devotees who had been serving Srila Prabhupada at the end. And, there's so many wonderful instructions, but one is that the spiritual master always keeps company with the disciple as long as the disciple faithfully serves the spiritual master. And that is a principle that Srila Prabhupada enunciated on many occasions in many places in his dedication to Srimad Bhagavatam. He wrote, dedicated, to my spiritual master, His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He lives forever by his divine instructions, and the follower lives with him. So this principle of Vani Seva, serving the words or instructions, as opposed to Vapu Seva, serving the body or the physical presence, is a major theme in Srila Prabhupada's teachings. And it's a major theme in his concluding words to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, yeah. In that section in the fourth canto, the king and his wife, figuratively, the king is the spiritual master, and the wife is the disciple. So when her husband leaves his body, the wife cries piteously. And Srila Prabhupada says that when the spiritual master departs, the disciples can cry. But again, the spiritual master always keeps company with the disciple as long as the disciple sincerely follows the order of the spiritual master. Yes, you send the mic back.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for the association. Now, I have a question about recent interaction I will mention about European article about the Japanese spiritual master. I had a question based on that. What were the things Prabhupada observed that he called you up for a meeting and asked that you should write? And he said that, why me? And then Prabhupada remarked that, yeah, we need you and many more. So I just wanted to ask, what were the things that Prabhupada marked in you or observed in you and he said that you should do this service? And what would be your guidelines for those who would like to do this service in future, following your footsteps?
What was the last part?
Second part was that what are your suggestions or guidelines to those who wish to do this service of writing?
Yes. Well, in one letter to me, Srila Prabhupada wrote, in the midst of your heavy duties, go on writing articles. Writing means putting into words how you have understood the whole philosophy. And he said, this writing is for everyone. So not just for me or him or her, but it's for everyone. And yeah, there's a nice definition of realization in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we repeat, of course, we don't speculate. We repeat what we've read and heard from Srila Prabhupada and the Parampara. But we also should add some personal realization so it's more touching to the heart, more personal. And yeah, I know when I read, and probably many of you feel the same way, when you read where Srila Prabhupada's talking about himself and his own experiences in life, I find it very interesting, very relishable. So, yeah. There's some books on writing. I ordinarily wouldn't say that, but in the presence of His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami, I recommend two books. One is called The Elements of Style by Strunk and White, and the other is called On Writing Well by William Zinsser. So if anyone wants to write, I highly recommend these books to help you clarify your writing. Any other questions or comments? Yes, but a Haridas.
I was curious, the Mayavadis asked you to so this Mayavad was
How did?
how did you do this?
Oh yeah, Muktananda. Yeah, he stayed. He became a devotee, and eventually he ended up in Juhu, doing service in Juhu. I must admit I lost track of him. I don't know where he is now or what he's doing. But yeah, he made it. He made it. He took first and second initiation from Srila Prabhupada and was doing service in Jubilee. Yeah, it was nice. Nice. Oh, I think it was Vardhan, Vardhan. Prabhupada gave him the name Vardhan. All right, my dear devotees, thank you for joining us. And, oh, okay.
These books that we have are very good. So this way of some of these ideas, especially the Jewish family tells us how it's always having strong ordinance from the Jewish family. It's very little details of Arizona's group of Christian families. They are from the soul together in the presence of the family. Yeah. Of course, it's a culture from some other group. So, as long as we are trying to do.
What was the last thing? No, did you say Kurukshetra?
It's a book. Prophet said something like that?
He said Bombay is like Kurukshetra and Giriraj is our Arjuna. All right, thank you very much. God bless you, Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,